Hi everyone, today I will be discussing noun incorporation and classificatory verbs in the Cherokee language with an emphasis on the effect of language contact. For my presentation today, I will start with previous claims that have been made about noun incorporation in the Cherokee language. Then I will state my research question and go on to previous arguments made. Then I will do a quick overview of noun incorporation in Cherokee as well as classificatory verbs in Cherokee. Then I will discuss non-Iroquoian language contact that may have affected the Cherokee language. Then I'll state my results, and lastly, I will do the next steps I will be taking for my research paper. There have been two main claims regarding classificatory verbs and noun incorporation in Cherokee. The first and more supported claim is that classificatory verbs in Cherokee are the product of previous noun incorporation in Proto-Iroquoian. The second is that the classificatory verbs in Cherokee are from contact between non-Iroquoian languages, but this one has much less backing and research to it. The research question I have selected for my project is, has language contact influenced the use of classificatory verbs in Cherokee? I chose this because previous claims have been made, but there just isn't a lot of research to it, and I want to further explore this idea. The debate among linguists as to whether the Proto-Iroquoian language had productive noun incorporation was argued by Methuen, 1984, when she showed the possibility that noun incorporation in Cherokee was once productive through the reanalyzation of classificatory verbs by using her four-type system to define the functionality and progression of noun incorporation in a language. This argument was supported by Blankenship, 1997, as well as Uchiara, 2014. As I kind of explained in the previous slide, Methuen proposed a four-type system to define the functionality and progression of noun incorporation in a language, and these four types are Type 1 lexical compounding, Type 2 manipulation of case roles, Type 3 manipulation of discourse structure, and Type 4 classificatory incorporation. Methuen, 1984, explains that languages exhibiting any of the types of noun incorporation have previously displayed all the lower types as well. So the only productive use of noun incorporation in Cherokee are seen with body part terms that includes clothing. So in the first two examples, 157 and 158, we see that the nouns being incorporated into the verbs are either clothing, like in 157, or body part terms, like in 158. Looking at the example on the right, we see that this is a type 4 noun incorporation, which is classificatory incorporation. So Methuen describes classificatory incorporation as a relatively general noun stem being incorporated to narrow the scope of the verb. And since only general nouns are incorporated for this purpose, a classificatory system often results. So in 159, we can see that liquid is the general noun stem that is being incorporated. So then we know that the container that's lying on the ground is liquid. And it's also important to note that this is a cognate with the Northern Iroquoian noun stem for liquid. So this just kind of helps prove Methuen's claim that classificatory verbs are the product of noun incorporation in Proto-Iroquoian. So moving on to classificatory verbs in Cherokee, I think it's important to note that Cherokee is the only Iroquoian language with classificatory verbs. There are 5 classes of reference, being living/animate, liquid, flexible, long/rigid, and compact/round/neutral. And the majority of classificatory verbs have to do with handling physical objects. So this example is pulled from Blankenship 1997, and we can see that the verb being used is giving. So she is giving is seen throughout 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but the only difference are the reference. So in 1, she is giving him a cat. Since cat is a living thing, the referent for living would be used. And then, yeah, we could see in 2 it's liquid, 3 is flexible, 4 is long, and 5 is compact. So getting into non-Iroquoian language contact, I have a quote from Chafe 1964 that states Robert G. Latham implied something of the sort in 1845 when he noted affinities between certain languages, which included the Iroquois tongue Cherokee and Catawba, which is a member of the Siouan language family. So when the Cherokee split from the Northern Iroquoian languages around 3,500 years ago, they moved south to South Carolina, and there were already tribes, including the Yamasee tribe, and there have been claims that the Cherokee of Tuskegee Town also spoke Yamasee, and then there's also been claims that the Yamasee originally spoke Cherokee, but then learned a new language. Unfortunately, the Yamasee language has very little documentation, so I couldn't really find much about that. But by the time early contact with the Europeans and Africans, the prominent languages in South Carolina included languages from the Muskogean and Siouan language families, as well as Cherokee. So there are many theories, though none proven, around the origin of the name Cherokee, and some of those are believed to be about the Muskogean language Choctaw, and the word Chaliki, which means those who live in the mountains. There are also many place names that come from the Choctaw language. And Methuen also explains that Choctaw experiences decay of noun incorporation at stage 2. So focusing on Cherokee and Catawba, they were separated by the Broad and Catawba rivers, so direct language contact would have been difficult. So the results of my research thus far have brought me to believe that language contact with the Cherokee would have been difficult due to both physical boundaries as well as hostility between Cherokee and surrounding tribes. The Cherokee were described as aggressors and were known for starting wars between surrounding tribes. As for the affinities between Catawba and Cherokee that Latham first noted and then Chafe quoted, this has actually led me to another language family, the Caddoan family, which are distant relatives of the Iroquoian language family, as well as even further distant relatives as the Siouan language family. And overall, it just seems that the claims supported by Methuen's evolution of noun incorporation, that the classificatory verb system came from noun incorporation from Proto-Iroquoian, it just seems much more likely than from outside language contact. So the next steps that I would like to take include further research into the Caddoan language family and whether it shows any use of classificatory verbs. I'd just like to note that I didn't come across this until very recently, so I don't have much research on that at the moment. And then I would also like to research the initial split between Cherokee and the Northern Iroquoian branch, because I find that this may be beneficial in kind of understanding why Cherokee is so different from the Northern Iroquois branch.